my quilt falling off the table. I don't like the quilt being all over the floor. Okay. Side number 4. And I do realize that some crafters, they do more than just quilting. Some of y'all, like me, I crochet, I cross stitch. I like to knit sometimes, and other crafting things. So when I like all kinds of colors actually. So a lot of times when I'm doing an Afghan, depending on who I'm making it for, will depend on what types of colors I choose, of course. I like to do the Linus Project quilts, Afghans. Those are fun to knit and crochet along. So if you do crafts other than quilting, like scrapbooking, crocheting, knitting, things like that, leave me that in your comments too. Just so we can get to know one another. It's just kind of fun to get to know each other, just to break the ice, you know. Just let me know what y'all are doing and what you have fun with from week to week, day to day, you know, things like that. Or, you know, maybe you just like watching other people do their crafting, you know. Sometimes you just want to watch somebody else do what they do. And that's okay too. All right. I don't know if y'all have ever watched Barnwood Builders, but I keep hearing Johnny Jett or Mark Bow or one of them guys, last log, when they're putting the cabin together and they're putting all those logs up and they come to the last log and they yell out, last log. So I'm putting in the last pin. Last pin. Almost one more. There's the last pin. Okay, now. Okay, now. I can hem this one of 2 ways. The first way is I can get my quilting thread and a very tiny number 9 needle, and I can hand stitch all the way around this. It will probably take me a couple of hours to do this, which I definitely will not bore you with, okay? The other thing I can do is, since I have a really nice wide border on all sides, I was letting you know, sorry about that. I was letting you know about how I am going to hem this, okay? Now, as I was saying, there's one of 2 ways that I can hem this. I can take my needle, a very tiny needle, a number 10, very tiny quilting needle, and quilting thread, and it will probably take me a couple of hours to hand stitch this so that you will not see any stitches on the front side of this quilt. And I can do that. Or I can put white thread top and bottom in my sewing machine, and I can do a really pretty decorative stitch that will go all the way around the borders on this quilt. It will be just on the edge of the binding, and it will be like right along, see where the pins are? It will be right along there on all four sides. So, and I think that because the top and bottom borders are not as wide as the side borders are, I believe I will hand stitch this. Okay, so when you hand stitch, I'm going to do just a very tiny example for you. I'm going to turn that light up so I can show you. Because I do want you to see just a little bit of what I do and how I do it. It is a very tiny needle. It is a number 10. I don't know if you can see that or not. See how tiny that is? That's a very tiny needle, and I don't know, can you see the eye of that needle? I don't think you can see the eye of it very well. Anyway, the eye of that needle is very tiny. Let me see if I can get this threaded. Okay, it's not wanting to thread. Let me snip the end of that thread. And what you do when you hand quilt is, there we go. Okay. I've been doing this for a lot of years, so alright, so I take about, some people only take a yard, I take 2 yards. I take about 2 yards of thread. I put a very tiny knot in the end of that. I make a little circle, and then I just kind of roll it, and it makes a, where's that? See that little tiny knot right there? That's what I do. And then I just snip that right. See where I snipped it? Okay. So now what I am going to do is, and since I am left-handed, I am going to use my left hand to sew this with. All right. So when you quilt, when you hand quilt, what you do is you put your needle and you're going to start on the top side of your fabric, and you're going to go, but that little knot's going to be on the top side of your fabric. Well, no, it isn't, because it's going to be small enough. You're actually going to very carefully pull it through that hole. Okay? So here's what I am doing. And I'm just going to do a running stitch, and I'm only going through the top fabric, so the green fabric, the blue fabric, and the batting. knot, and that's it, okay? And I'm going to take very tiny stitches. And I'm only going to take a few stitches here. I'm not going to sit here and do this with you all night. I just want you to see. Okay, see, let me see if I can see where my needle is right there. See how I took all those little tiny stitches? Now I'm going to pull my needle through. And I'm going to pull it through carefully until I feel that knot. That knot is going to stop me for just a second, okay? And then I'm going to very carefully, very gingerly pull until I hear it snap, just a very teeny bit. And if I have to, I will use my thumb or my finger to get that knot to go through the fabric. Because I only want that knot to go through the batting. And I don't want to break my thread, so I'm going to be really careful about getting that knot in that hole, okay? All right. And sometimes I can get that knot in there, and sometimes I can't. Let's see, can I get that in there? Did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it? I believe I did. Okay. Pick up my thread. Pick up my needle and keep going. And I'm only picking up the green fabric, the blue fabric, and the batting. And you can feel this. And most people will use a thimble of some kind. For some reason, I don't. I can't tell you why, but I don't necessarily need a thimble. I like to feel my needle go through. See, there are no stitches on the front side of there. You're not seeing any stitches there. And the stitches on that back side are very tiny because I'm using this tiny needle. The smaller the needle, the smaller the stitches you get. When I first started quilting, I thought I had to have a big needle so I'd have more control, but I very quickly learned that the larger needle you used, if you used a large needle, your stitches would become very large and very clunky, and they didn't look very good, and your quilt wasn't going to be very pretty. Okay, so you want a very small needle so you can take very tiny stitches. Anyway, that is it for now. Thank you for watching me. Thank you for bearing with me, getting that binding on there, getting my mitered corners, and pinning my binding on. Thank you for letting me show you how I hand stitch the binding. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and just hand stitch this. All right. Y'all have a good week, and we'll see you next time.